Ladies and gentlemen, Speaker Boehner's journey is as inspiring as it is remarkable. He grew up in Ohio, the second eldest of 12 children. He was the first member of his family to attend college, and he paid his way through college by working jobs that include that of being a night janitor collecting garbage. He ran a highly successful business, and he sacrificed all that goes with running a highly successful, profitable business to put himself forward for election to public office. He was first elected to represent Ohio's 8th congressional district in 1990 and made an immediate impact on how national politics is conducted in the United States. He served as House Republican Conference Chairman from 1995 to 1999. The Speaker has described education as the great equalizer in America, and he sees the opportunity to give expression for his passion for education as an avenue to opportunity when he chaired the House Education and Workforce Committee from 2001 to 2006. And his landmark legislative reforms included the Pension Protection Act and the bipartisan No Child Left Behind Act. In 2006, he was elected House Majority Leader, and in January 2011, he was elected Speaker of the House. The Speaker has said he has spent his life chasing the American dream. But to borrow some phrases that will resonate with an Irish audience, when you consider his journey, inspired by a belief that there is nothing in this world you can't accomplish, nothing you can't succeed at, if you're willing to work hard enough and make the sacrifices that are necessary, I think you will agree that he is a shining example of the American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, John A. Boehner.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, but it's just me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. Thank you for what you do for your companies, what you do for the communities in which you serve, and thank you for hiring lots of people to help them achieve their own dreams. And not many people in the public sector who've come from the private sector who really understand the challenge that you all go through, the risk that you take, the money that you put on the line, the ideas that you have to create in order to make that investment pay off. But there are people in this room who have done it. And I'm just here as someone from the private sector to say thank you for what you do. Now, as Elizabeth Taylor told her 5th husband, "Don't worry, honey, I won't be here long." After this lineup of speakers that we've had here today, I'm sitting there at my table wondering, my God, what are they going to think when they hear from me? As Mark mentioned, I'm kind of the last guy in the world who should be standing here. If I was really lucky, I'd just be sitting out there. But I grew up in a family with 8 brothers, 3 sisters, and my dad owned a saloon. And I tell people all the lessons I learned growing up are the lessons I need to do my job. And, you grew up in a big family, have to learn to get along with each other, get things done together, get things done as a family. You grew up in a bar, I mopped floors, I did dishes, waited tables, tended bar. And you have to learn to deal with every jackass that walks in the door. No, trust me, I need all the skills I learned growing up to do my job. And, all I ever wanted to do when I grew up was to be a business guy. I wanted to be a sales and marketing guy, which is what I did. And I could take you through the whole story. I was a young guy, went to work for an older guy, he died. And I was 25 years old. We had 1 customer, and I was still in 8th school at Xavier University, trying to finish school and trying to hold on to this little nugget of a business. But over the years, it worked. And along the way, I got involved in my neighborhood homeowners association, and I ended up as Speaker of the House. This too could happen to you. The last thing never crossed my mind is that I'd be involved in some politics of some sort. I didn't even know what politics was. I was a president of our homeowners association. I ran for a local office because they needed somebody, and I ended up in the state house. But I got involved in public service because I thought that what we needed in this arena were people from the real world with a real background and a real understanding of the free enterprise system in which you all live in and we live in the United States. When you look at the economy and the free enterprise system in the U.S., it's what's allowed America to be America. It's given opportunities to millions, hundreds of millions of people for a long time. In America, you've got the freedom to succeed, the freedom to innovate, the freedom to try, and you also have the freedom to fail. But in America, you don't have to fail. You just dust off your rear end, get up, and go do it again. And it's what's made America America. And when you look at the transformation of the Irish economy, I see you walking down the same path. Congratulations and good luck. We've been on the road now for a week, and it's been interesting. As you can imagine, the security questions over in Central and Eastern Europe were at the top of people's minds. But while there was a lot of conversation about the security issues, I have to tell you, the issue of trade came up at each of our stops. And frankly, it came up far more than once. Europe understands that trade is good for Europe. Americans understand, or at least some of us understand, that trade's good for America. And I've spent over 20 years trying to build a stronger transatlantic relationship, something that would lead to a discussion that we're actually having today with regard to TTIP. Now listen, every American president over the last 50 years has had a trade promotion authority, the ability to go out and negotiate a trade agreement on behalf of the United States and then let Congress have an up or down vote. You can imagine that none of our allies would want to conduct a negotiation with us if they thought 535 members of Congress could tear apart their well-crafted agreement. And so if you want to get the best deal, you've got to give the president the authority to negotiate it. This is typically not the easiest vote because, like a lot of people, the opponents of free trade can go out there and stir up people's worst fears. And when you look at the trade wars that have gone on for the last 500 years, you can understand why it's not hard for people to stir up those imaginations. So we went through a pretty tough battle here over the last 2 or 3 months trying to get trade promotion authority passed. But it is passed. And it was a bipartisan effort between the leaders in Congress and the President of the United States. It will lead, in my estimation, to an agreement with the Asians and will lead to an agreement on TTIP. Now, let's not underestimate some of the difficulties. I've been through these trade agreements over the 25 years I've been in Congress. None of them are easy. But we'll get through this. And I think if I look back and I listen to the conversations I've had with those of you here in Ireland and across Europe, people understand we're going to have our share of disagreements trying to get to a final agreement. But I think everybody understands that the big picture, coming to an agreement, expanding the relationship between Europe and the United States in terms of trade is in everybody's best interest. And I do believe that, and frankly, I think that we're going to get there. Over the last 6 months, we've had a pretty good run in the Congress after what I'll call 5 or 6 pretty tough years. Our system doesn't work real well in America. We've got too much democracy. I got too much democracy on the Republican side of the aisle, all right? But listen, we have a committee of 535 people. And that's basically what it is. My committee on my side of the Congress is 435 people. So my challenge every day is to try to get a majority, 218 frogs in a wheelbarrow, and keep them there long enough to pass a bill. It's a big challenge, but I think a lot of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle heard what the electorate had to say after the last election. And basically it was, all right, we're going to put you guys in charge, but we expect you to find some common ground and get some things done. And we really have made a lot of bipartisan progress this year so far. And I think we're probably going to have the most productive year in the Congress that we've seen in some time. You know, people asked me earlier about getting geared up for the elections. I said, no. The presidential candidates are getting geared up for their election. Those of us in the Congress, that won't happen for about a year. But most of us are pretty well focused on the tasks that we have at hand, and which will occupy our attention over the course of this year. You know, I became Speaker about 4.5 years ago, and every St. Patrick's Day I host a luncheon for the Prime Minister of Ireland, the Taoiseach, and President of the United States, and the Vice President. The ambassadors, Ambassador O'Malley was there this year, and then all the House and Senate members with an Irish background, and then anybody else I feel like inviting. But the first time I hosted this luncheon was in March 17th of 2011. The Taoiseach had been in office all of a week. And so we met each other right at the beginning of our terms and hit it off spectacularly well. I've got to say, I'm a big fan of his. He's a funny guy, a serious guy, but somebody who I can work pretty closely with. I've been trying now for over 4 years to address immigration reform. It's really a thorny issue in the United States, but it is time to get resolved. It's become a political football. The issue's been around for now 15 years, and somehow my colleagues think it's going to be resolved by sticking their heads in the sand. It doesn't work that way. You know, we don't get elected to Congress to do all the easy things. We get elected to Congress to do the difficult things. And this is a difficult, thorny issue that has to be dealt with. And there's probably a dozen different big issues within immigration reform that need to be dealt with. And I really like to find a way to get it done. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. You know, it's not just a birthday. It's just not celebrating the birth of a nation. It's celebrating the birth of an idea that people can be free, people can self-govern themselves, and people can be whatever they want themselves to be. 239 years later, this idea, this experiment in democracy continues. It's not perfect. We've got our faults. We've made our mistakes. And that's why we call it an experiment in democracy. So as we celebrate tomorrow in the United States, and those of you that want to celebrate with us, let me say how happy I am to be here in Ireland to celebrate the 4th of July. You know, while I'd probably prefer to be in Westchester, Ohio, playing a round of golf, and probably cooking for my family on the grill, which is what I like to do when I'm home, it's really wonderful to be here in Ireland, where I feel like I'm with family. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.